Auschwitz was an extermination camp in the Holocaust of World War II, and it was the worst event in human history. Let us tell you why. It killed millions, tormented innocent people, and the pain Auschwitz caused still affects us today, causing a large tragedy among the people who lost their lives. The event included several people, experiments, and some people, such as twins, were treated differently in comparison to other prisoners. Because of all this, Auschwitz was one of the most feared places of World War II, and it was the biggest extermination camp.
Auschwitz was originally started by Adolf Hitler, the Chancellor of Germany. Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Since Germany was in suffering after the First World War, Hitler gave a speech on October 15, 1939, after the war started September 1st, 1939. We believe the war didn't start until this time because all he did for the week before the speech was attack some small towns and villages to make a statement of peace or war. In this speech he says, "For the last 2 days, our towns and villages have been decorated with flags and symbols of the new Reich." He says this because they have been victorious in the recent battles to make a statement. Adolf Hitler had the characteristics of a good leader, but he was leading the wrong thing. Since September 1st, 1939, there has been a fear of Hitler because he did a lot of damage. There were about 85 million deaths total, and Adolf Hitler killed about 11 million of those in extermination, labor, and concentration camps. He has caused a lot of pain, even for people today. There is still some damage on property, and there are still people missing because they do not know if they are alive or dead.
Auschwitz was a series of extermination camps in Germany where over 1 million people died. Not many people know, but the Auschwitz complex was a series of 3 large camps: Auschwitz, Auschwitz II, Birkenau, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and Auschwitz III, and it had over 40 subcamps as well. Auschwitz-Birkenau was the Nazis' most successful extermination camp, and it killed the most people. Auschwitz-Birkenau killed almost 1 million by itself, and the other 2 major camps lasted a short amount of time, killing about 50,000 each. The subcamps killed about 10,000 each. Overall, Auschwitz was a terrible place in World War II, and it was the worst place in history to this day.
The Auschwitz complex was a series of extermination camps in the Holocaust. The Holocaust took place in World War II, which was the most destructive war in history. It killed 85 million people total, and approximately 11 million of those are from the Holocaust alone. In those 11 million, about 1.1 million came from the Auschwitz complex, the multiple camps that fall into Auschwitz name.
Dr. Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, was the lead scientist in Auschwitz. He started out like all the other scientists there, but soon became the most feared and most known Auschwitz scientist. He was most feared because almost all of his experiments caused death, or the rest of his victims were murdered. He was not always this way though. Dr. Joseph Mengele was a normal everyday man before Auschwitz, but he was taught about Nazi racial theory in schooling before, and everything changed for the worse. Many people didn't know this, but Joseph Mengele wasn't always at Auschwitz. In the beginning of the war, he volunteered for the medical service of the Waffen-SS. He was then promoted and transferred later on to Auschwitz in 1943, where he got the title, the Angel of Death. He originally did the experiments that they were assigned, but later became to practice on twins when he was promoted.
Many twins were taken into Auschwitz and had many horrible experiments done on them. There were about 3,000 twins that went through Auschwitz, and many of them died. One of these sets of twins were Eva and Miriam Moses, who have become really famous because they have taken action to share their stories about Auschwitz. And they even started the Candles Holocaust Museum and Education Center. Miriam had a problem with her kidneys because they wouldn't develop past when they were 10. These are just one example of many twins that survived Auschwitz. Here's an account by witnesses and victims of Auschwitz describing their first impression of Auschwitz.
כל מה שקורה לנו, מה שלא מספרים לאף אחד, אפילו לא לבעלים ולא לילדים,
אנחנו בינינו תמיד. זה לא יחיד, זה שנינו ביחד.
אני זוכרת שהוציאו אותנו מהקרונות, מלא אססים עם כלבים, המון אנשים, בלגן גדול. וצעקות שמישהו צועק שם צווילינגן, צווילינגן, שזה בגרמנית תאומים. אז אימא שלי שאלה מה זה טוב להגיד צווילינגן, אז הוא אומר מה יכול להיות? תגידי.
ואחר כך לקחו אותנו
לבלוק הזה של תאומים, שהיו שם הרבה תאומים, בכלל לא ידענו שיש כל כך הרבה תאומים.
אנחנו שמה ואנחנו מוכנות תמיד, מתי שקוראים לנו,
ללכת לנישואים. זה התפקיד של התאומים. עשו כל מיני נישואים, וזה כך, ואז אנחנו צרחנו. הם לא הסכימו, הם רצו שאנחנו נהיה שקטים ושנעשה מה שהם רוצים.
אלה שהיו חלשות ולא היו נראות טוב, הם לקחו אותם, לא המשיכו.
לא חזרו. עד כדי כך שאמא אמרה לנו שלפני שלוקחים אותנו לנישואים, למנגל, נצפות את הפנים שלנו, שאנחנו נהיה אדומות ושנראה טוב. אתה אף פעם לא ידעת מה שיעשו לך שם, ואף פעם לא ידעת אם תחזור משם.
יש שם שתי ילדות עם כובעים על הראש. זה התמונה שלנו. הדברים הטובים שקרו, שנולדו לנו ילדים.
בגלל שאמרו שהנישואים האלו,
הרבה נשים לא יכלו להביא ילדים לעולם. האבא שלי, שאני התחתנתי, אז הוא סיפר לבעל שלי שאני הייתי בשואה ועשו נישואים, שהוא ייקח את זה בחשבון, שאי אפשר לדעת התוצאות.
והרגע הכי מאושר, לא נולדו תאומים. אז אתה יכול לתאר לעצמך איזה אושר.
On the 27th of January, 1945, Auschwitz was liberated. This is the triumph within our tragedy. About 7,500 people were liberated on this day. Although they were liberated, most of the survivors of Auschwitz were mostly ill and dying. There were many more prisoners, but they were either murdered or went on the death marches that went on earlier in that month. It was a very scary time for the prisoners that were left because they had to scrounge for food, and a lot of what was left was poisoned by the SS.
A Holocaust survivor, Bart Stern, has this to say about the Holocaust and his experience of liberation.
So I was hiding out in the heap of dead bodies, because in the last week, when the crematorium didn't function at all, the bodies were just building up higher and higher. And I sneaked among those dead bodies because I was afraid they'd come back or something. So there I was at nighttime, and at daytime I was roaming around in the camp. And this is where I actually survived January 27th. I was one of the very first, Birkenau was one of the very first camps being liberated. This was my survival chance.
Just like his experience, many other people survived Auschwitz in a similar way because they had to escape the death marches secretly and hide when the SS came through and killed everyone that was left behind at the camp. Then, as you can see, the SS didn't thoroughly kill them all, and they didn't even bother looking everywhere because there were about 7,500 people liberated soon after.
Triumph and tragedy both play a big part in Auschwitz. Tragedy takes place with millions of people who lost their lives. The families and friends will forever miss them, and triumph takes place with the people who were liberated. Over 1,000 people live to carry on the legacy of those who died, and those people are the people who carry this tragedy and triumph on to this day.
As you can see, Auschwitz was the worst place in history to this day. Auschwitz killed millions, tormented innocent people, and the pain Auschwitz caused still affects us today.
Si vos verás